All right, so I've seen this post from Valuetainment, and I thought I would talk about it. There's a difference between ego and pride. Pride is caring about your last name and your legacy. Ego is about vanity and being right. And also says we all have an ego, and the biggest competitors have massive egos. The key isn't hiding it; it's knowing how and when to put your ego to use. And I think that that's a very good way of putting it. And I mean, another way of describing ego, I think too, is that thinking that you're owed things without actually having to earn them too. I think that that's another aspect of ego as well. Or thinking that you deserve to be treated a certain way without having to earn it, or the list goes on, right? But I mean, the one thing I would say too is that, I mean, Valuetainment is changing the world. I mean, for lack of a better way of putting it, I think that if I could follow one podcast or one thing on YouTube, they probably would be that. I think Patrick Bet-David is just absolutely amazing. But again, that's besides the point. The main point here, everybody has an ego, and I think having an ego to an extent is okay, but it shouldn't be something that, I mean, that's the first thing that people think about you, right? It shouldn't be that, right? I think that pride is a better thing, right? I mean, vanity is another massive problem in society nowadays. That's basically all people care about, right? And being right too. I mean, that's probably the main reason that society is failing to such a degree, that people just cannot admit they're wrong about anything, right? I mean, like I say, I don't get directly political at all, but you look at a lot of places, everything's going wrong, but yet people insist on voting for the same thing over and over and over again, right? If you don't do something different, you're going to keep getting the same results, whether it's your personal life, or in general. All right. I mean, another big thing too is that people are so afraid of seeing suffering, right? That we've been so desensitized to it, and to some degree that's a good thing. But I think that, I mean, it's gone overboard in the West, that people think that, oh my God, we can't have any suffering out there. And the problem with that is that they take it so far in the other direction that they create dependence, right? And again, because all people care about is being right, and people care more about their vanity than actually that, right? I mean, a lot of people too, when it comes to politics too, this is a good example that I always bring up with people. It's like, let's take any problem in society. I'm not going to name anything directly, but take a problem, and you go up to your average politician, and I bet you probably 90% of them would fall into this category, and you ask them, no, publicly they would never admit it, but privately and in their own mind, this is how it would go. If you had two options, you can solve the problem but not get any credit for solving the problem, or not solve the problem but the media will give you credit for solving the problem. Vast majority of people would choose the second option, or the vast majority of politicians, and the vast majority of people as well, right? And again, this is where the ego and the vanity comes in, that people care more about getting credit, people care more about getting likes than actually the cold, hard results, right? So that's a huge problem that we face as a society, right? And people really need to come to grips with this. And I think that it's something that's going to happen if we want to improve. Right? And I don't think having a big ego necessarily is a bad thing, if you can know how and when to use it. Right? I think the big problem too is that the ability to admit you're wrong too. I mean, that's something that's a telltale sign of people who that are using their ego in the wrong way. Right? Just not being able to admit you're wrong. And if people could simply admit they're wrong about things, then society would be so much better off. And a lot of the time, it's beyond obvious to anyone paying attention, even to the slightest degree, right? But people would rather fit in and maintain the illusion that they're right than just admit they're wrong and move on, right? Just admit you're wrong and move on, right? And I mean, you should care about your legacy as well. And this is another big thing too, is that A lot of people nowadays, all they care about is the here and now. It's just gimme, gimme, gimme. I don't care about the future. Just give it all to me now. I want it all now. Not defer gratification and suffer in the here and now, but you get more in the future. Right? We need more of that. We need less of, short-sighted people and short-sighted thinking. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.